Hello and welcome to Volleyball State, a look at the sport of volleyball in 6 rotations and a proud part of the I-80 Club. I'm Jeff Sheldon.
And I'm Lincoln Arneal.
Hey, we are nearly a month into the U.S. pro volleyball season, and both of Nebraska's professional clubs have had their ups and downs in January. We're going to be looking at the opening weeks of Major League Volleyball and League One and talk Omaha Supernovas and Love Nebraska. But first, we're going to talk to the newly elected chair of USA Volleyball's Board of Directors, Cassidy Lichtman, about the governing body's role in growing the sport in this country and what the vision for USA Volleyball is in the run-up to a huge year in 2028 when the U.S. is going to be hosting the Los Angeles Summer Olympics. Lincoln, you have spent this month kind of bouncing around the corners of the state on pro volleyball. You are now, I would say, the state's primary authority on professional volleyball. How does that sound to you?
Great. It's an honor, really. I mean, there was that when both leagues started their first week, I think I wrote about 5 or 6 stories that week. So it's lots of preview. Hopefully people are getting an interest in understanding how the 2 different leagues work. And Nebraska is fortunate to have 2 professional teams. So the volleyball doesn't stop once the calendar flips to the new year.
Absolutely. We're kind of spoiled here. I know that Love Nebraska was supposed to have a match on Sunday against Atlantic that got postponed because of the weather. The Supernovas picked up a huge win on Saturday night at the previously unbeaten Indy Ignite. So we're going to talk about them and so much more coming up in just a bit. Lincoln's got our rundown for today, our 6 rotations.
Yeah, rotation 1. We will start straight off the top with Cassidy Lichtman. We'll do a little long side out interview with her, and then we'll rotate.
Get a nice service run going here.
Yeah, good service run. I like that. Rotation 2, we'll talk about the Omaha Supernovas, how they fared in their first couple weeks of the season. Then rotation 3, we're going to jump over to Love, Nebraska, and look at their early part of the season. Rotation 4, we're going to talk about little Husker volleyball. Jalen Reyes got a new contract and a new title. We'll dive into what that means, and we'll stick with coaching news in rotation 5. Alfie Reft is leaving UCLA and is headed to Love San Francisco. And then rotation 6, we'll do some beach volleyball, and we've got some other updates about some other Huskers that are playing professionally, not in MLV or Love. So that's the rotations. We're going to start off rotation 1. We're going to talk with Cassidy Lichtman. She was recently elected the president of the USA Volleyball Board of Director. That role doesn't begin till July 1st. She's also the vice president of volleyball and athlete engagement at Athletes Unlimited, another professional league, and was named to the Adweek's list of most powerful women in sports in 2022. Wow.
We should also add she was a really, really good player, former star at Stanford, member of the U.S. national team. Cassidy, a very long resume. So thank you so much for bringing that resume and yourself to Volleyball State today.
I appreciate it. I'm excited to be here. I also want to +1 on Lincoln being the authority for pro volleyball in Nebraska, because if I need to know what's going on in Nebraska, I try and find Lincoln's feed and see what's up.
Well, we bring that knowledge here. We're glad that you can bring your perspective as well, too. So, thanks for joining us. We'll kind of start with the most recent news that you were in for the past week, elected president. I mean, how does one get elected president of the board for USA Volleyball? Was that a role you were interested in? Did others kind of pitch you on it, or was there a big campaign?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, so I've been on the board for about 6 years as the athlete representative for their indoor women. And it's been interesting to see kind of behind the curtain of how USA Volleyball works, having been through it in so many different, roles and layers. And when this came up, our board chair is terming out, and, I thought about it. I never really thought I would be interested in this kind of role. It's a lot of work. You don't get paid. So, you really have to, I think, be invested in it. And I was excited about where the organization is going, where the sport is at right now, the momentum we have and the opportunity we have in the next few years, especially with the Olympics in LA. And I think, John Sproul has a big vision for the organization. And so it felt like this was the time that if I were going to take that role, this would be the time to do it. And it feels like we can have a real impact on the sport in a big way.
I think a lot of maybe casual volleyball fans or volleyball fans who have come to the sport primarily through the college game really don't have a great knowledge of what USA Volleyball is or what their role is as the governing body in the sport. Can you give us a brief explainer about what the structure of USA Volleyball is, what its kind of mission and goals are, and why this is such a big deal, overseeing all levels of the sport in this country?
Yeah, it's a massive mandate. I mean, I don't necessarily envy, John Spraz, the CEO, for having to track all of the different pieces of it. But yeah, essentially as a national governing body, we are responsible for the sport in this country. And that goes from, grassroots play up to the Olympic team. So in terms of kind of the buckets, we oversee and sanction a lot of the youth landscape and tournaments. USA Volleyball Nationals is one of the biggest events that the kids go to. There are 40 different regions that operate all across the country to make sure that there's access to local play. And that's all at a very kind of high standard as a national governing body around safety and development and those kinds of things that we're held to, by Congress as being part of the Olympic movement. So it's the youth side, it's coaching education, and then really talent development and identification for the elite, junior national teams up to the national team. So it is all kind of really connected, and USA has to really kind of keep an eye on the athlete pathways, all the way up through their journey.
Sure. Hey, we said you were elected this past week. I mean, you don't start till July, so I mean, what you get a little bit of a learning curve to get up there. I mean, even though you've been on the board, the different responsibilities that come with president. What do you think your top priorities are going to be when you take over the role come July?
Yeah, it's really great to have this kind of 6 months. Our current board chair, Dave Gentile, he's been in the role for a while now, and so I get to kind of overlap with him for 6 months, and we'll do it together, and then he'll hand off the reins. Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. I think there's an opportunity for USA Volleyball to kind of point the whole sport in the same direction. I think this is true of all sports to some degree, both at the youth level, at the pro level. There's a lot of different stuff going on. And the more that we can align that to kind of row the boat the same way, I think that's going to help the sport. I really think volleyball should be a mainstream sport in this country, and it has that potential.
We agree.
And that kind of visibility and even commercial success, I think, is going to drive access at the lower levels too. Like, I think those two things go hand in hand. The more that, the more that we can commercialize in a positive way, the less you have to commercialize off of, families and children is the idea. USA Volleyball is a nonprofit. Like, we're not out here, like I said, I don't get paid. We're not out here to make money off of all of this. So the more that we can kind of aggregate the sport and run it kind of efficiently and effectively, any kind of revenue that comes in from that can be reinvested back into that mission and into growing access for more kids.
You mentioned just a couple minutes ago that you are the indoor women's player representative on the board of directors. You're now the first former player to hold the position of board chair. What new perspective do you think you're going to be able to bring, being a former player, being a former international level player, to this position at USA Volleyball, and why is that perspective so important now?
Yeah, I think that was honestly one of the things that drew me to the position, knowing that there had never been an athlete in it. And, through my career, I've seen how important that is. Athletes Unlimited has taught me a lot about that, of what it means to have athlete perspective kind of as a partner in the conversation. I think the big thing is that, as I said, I've gone through this. I've been a member of USA Volleyball since I was 10 years old. I was basically born in the gym. My mom was a coach and club director. So I played all the way up through the youth side. I coached, both boys and girls. I then went on to the national team and the national team development, the pipeline, and played internationally, and then also work like in the broader women's sports world, which gives different perspective. So I think it's really important to have somebody who's gone through that and understand what is important for that child, all the way up through their career, because that's the person that we're trying to serve. And so to be able to look at that and say, I want to create kids who love this sport for the rest of their lives. Mm-hmm. and physical literacy in young girls and boys, just like learn how to move and be athletes, and pathways for kids like me who are going to go off and play in college and play at the elite level. That all of that is important. When I came out with the post the other day, like I think the comment that I loved the most was somebody just wrote like woman of the people, and I was like, yeah, like I'm that kid who came up through the system, and so I think that it's really cool to finally have that perspective kind of in the driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. In your role, you're president of the board, which is different than, I mean, imagine more the long-term vision, whereas John Sproul, you mentioned, is the CEO, who's running the day-to-day, working with all the different entities that needed that. I mean, do you meet very often with John Sproul kind of as the board president? I mean, how will your relationship with him change in your new position?
Yeah, I mean, we've already, you know, even as just a board member, we talk, you know, with relative consistency, but I think as the chair, it's going to be, you know, weekly or more for sure. You're right. The board, you know, isn't and shouldn't be involved in the operations of the organization. We really sit at a more strategic level. But I think given the moment that volleyball is in right now, that strategic conversation is really top of mind and important. At every level. You know, you're looking at the entirety of the sport and how do we structure the organization better? How can we serve the customer better? How do we compete well at the Olympics? What do we do about the pro leagues? Like, what do we do about all of the money coming into the sport, which is a great thing and also a dangerous thing. So I think all of those questions are going to you know, come kind of fast and furious at us, you know, for the next few years as I'm chair. And so yeah, John and I will be talking very frequently. And it's nice because we're both based in Southern California, so we can actually see each other in real life.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought up the kind of the board's role as the helping to determine the strategic focus of an organization. I've been a member of nonprofits before, worked at them, and having a good board relationship and drawing on that expertise is so important. You know, I know earlier this month it was reported there were some leadership changes at the executive level of USA Volleyball. What is the board doing to sort of help with the strategic focus? Are there any details you can share about what the strategic focus or strategic priorities of USA Volleyball is going to be just in the coming year?
Yeah, definitely. I think our role in that type of case is to talk with John about what he needs, what his strategy is, and does he have the people in place to get to that position? And he kind of has to determine that at the personnel level. But yeah, when there are changes at the executive level, the board, particularly the board chairs and the personnel committee, get drawn into that. And I think that is the direction that he is really going in this sort of reorganization, is taking the strategic initiatives that we've really outlined as most important and aligning the organization and the structure of it with those. So, you know, for example, you know, serving the members, like there needs to be somebody who is focused on membership, region, services, that's really in on that. Events is obviously a big pillar. So, and then as I said, the commercial side, like really there's basically no, you know, brand sponsorship in the sport of volleyball at the youth levels, really. And that's an opportunity for revenue that, again, doesn't come from the families that we're serving. So the more you can get out of, you know, those opportunities, the more you can reduce costs or increase programming without extracting from the ecosystem, which I think is important. So, you know, somebody who's, you know, directly focused on that. So I think that's, those are some of the priorities. Again, it's such a broad organization that covers so many things that it's hard to keep track a little bit, but yeah. without having it all written down, which we do. But yeah, I think that's what I'm focused on kind of in the next year or so.
Are you, I mean, talking about your own journey that you've been on just within, I mean, you were a player playing the national team too. I mean, has always kind of the operations side interest you, or when did that kind of develop in your journey in the sport of volleyball?
I think definitely I had a lot of questions about USA Volleyball. Listen, everybody's got their outside perspective and their opinions, right? And so I was no different coming up, you know, especially by the time I got to the national team. It's like, well, why are we spending on this and not that? And what's, you know, and so I think joining the board definitely gave me a lot more perspective where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like that's way more complicated than I thought it was. And then really, again, being a part of Athletes Unlimited, and I started as a player there, as in the player executive committee, which is really involved in the direction of the league and the decisions that are made. And that really opened me up to like, oh, I can learn about how the organization is run, and people care about my opinions beyond just, that I can hit a ball. So I think that process gave me a lot more confidence in my perspective and why it was valuable off the court. So then by the time I, got into the boardroom at USA Volleyball, I was like, no, but like I have a perspective that's valuable that people should be listening to, which is sometimes hard as an athlete to come off the court and walk into rooms like that and be willing to kind of use your voice.
We talked, you alluded to it just a minute ago, that USA Volleyball has maybe a role to play in trying to improve the accessibility of the sport at the youth level, or at least financially. I know a lot of our listeners are club parents or club coaches, or maybe even former club players. What can USA Volleyball do? Is it the sponsorship angle, or is it looking at something else that can just help improve accessibility on the sport? Because it's something that we hear come up a lot in club and youth circles.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. And I mean, across youth sports, right? Like the pay to play system is real tough for everyone. And it feels like costs are just rising. And that's because youth sports has become a business. And like I said, I think USA Volleyball as a nonprofit has a responsibility to not treat it solely as a business. You have to have financial strength of the organization, and you have to run it efficiently and effectively in those ways. But our job is then to kind of reinvest any profit back into the system, which is not true for a lot of youth sports organizations. So I think that's part of it is looking at how and where we raise money and why. So if we are profiting off of, events that families are going to, I think the way you can look at it is, all right, if you make $1 million off of, X number of events, and then you bring in Mizuno to sponsor it, and they give you an extra $2 or $3 million because they get to put signage over all these events. They go, okay, great. And then you put in more events that have more profit. And so now instead of having $1 million, you have 5 million. And what you can say is like, well, we don't actually need 5 million. We're good with 3 million. And we're going to use the 2 million extra to increase local programming so that there's families that aren't traveling as much. Put programs in areas that don't have it right now, help with coaching education, whatever it is. All of the things that kind of help our sport at the youth level. And then instead of making that extra 2 million on top of it, let's lower registration costs. Let's lower the fees for the tournaments. Like, how can we subsidize this in different ways? To look at it for the families. But I think that it's a really important thing for people to understand about USA Volleyball, because I'll be honest, like when I was younger, I heard all the time, like, this is a money grab. USA Volleyball is trying to make money off of this and profit. And maybe that was true. I don't think that was fully true at any time in the past, but again, like, that's not the purpose of the organization. Like, there is no reason for us to have a surplus of money just hanging around. Nobody's making anything off of that. It's not going to shareholders or investors. So again, the revenue that we make, if we can increase that, it should be going back into the sport. And if we don't need it, then we shouldn't be collecting it, and we should be figuring out ways to reduce costs.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned a little bit ago in one of your previous answers too about your role within Athletes Unlimited. You played a big part kind of reestablishing the professional volleyball on the women's side with Athletes Unlimited, first as a player, then kind of as an executive. What's been your thought kind of as you've seen the pro leagues, kind of not only Athletes Unlimited, but PVF, now MLV, and Love League One kind of evolve over the last few years too? What's been your takeaway and kind of seeing that the program, I don't know, flourish, because kind of reestablish itself as a viable entity?
Yeah, it's been amazing and messy, I think is where I would put it. I think back to when we were starting AU and in 2021, and I think it's all of this has happened so fast that people forget that at that moment, the kind of feeling out there was like professional volleyball can't work in the US. That was 5 years ago. And now we have 3 pro leagues. So to go from that first season of AU, where it really opened my eyes to like, oh, this could be a thing, if people invest in it properly. And then to see kind of the proliferation of the league since then, it's so great to see how fast that's taken off, and what it can do when people really truly invest in it at the level it needs to be invested in, and to see those women have those opportunities, and players come out of college now that's just a given that they can go on and play professionally. Whereas when I was coming out of college, I didn't even know professional volleyball really was a thing until I was a couple of years in, and some of my teammates were graduating and going to play. So I think seeing all of that develop has been incredible and so great for our sport, and a really critical step in volleyball becoming a mainstream sport, because I don't think you can do that without a sustainable, professional presence. So that's all been great. I think now we're at the point where it's like, all right, now we got to figure it out, guys. Let's figure out how to put all these pieces together. And it's going to happen, at some point. I'm not saying like anything out of pocket by saying that. All of the leagues know it. It's just a matter of figuring out kind of the details and logistics around how that happens. But yeah, it's amazing to be able to turn on the TV, especially with both leagues going on like most days of the week. It feels like somebody's playing. There's honestly so many matches. I can't even keep up.
You can watch so much volleyball now if you want.
So much. You can watch so much volleyball. So that's really cool. That's really cool to see. The level of players that are here, both American and international, is amazing. Like, I didn't think that would happen, certainly this quick, maybe even within my kind of volleyball life. So I think it's been really, really cool. And I'm excited for when we like fully figure it out.
Well, I mean, we are definitely in a boom period in professional volleyball. And like you said, sometimes that brings a little mess. It's a little wild westy right now, which has its advantages and its disadvantages. I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with kind of the setup of how volleyball works in the United States would ask something like, well, can't USA Volleyball kind of like get in the middle and guide this a little bit more, or say, hey, we're going to do this, we're not going to do this? What do you feel is actually the appropriate role that USA Volleyball has in the development of professional volleyball in the US and kind of getting us to a long-term sustainable structure?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's funny because I do see that a lot of like, why isn't USA Volleyball fixing this? And it's like, we're the national governing body, but like we can't actually, it wouldn't be right, honestly, if we were able to just say like, you can't run that business and you can. So that's not really the approach. I think USA Volleyball has remained, really neutral in the last few years as these leagues have developed, and supported all of them, which is great. I think there can be a role of a little bit of mediator, like as whenever the conversation does happen. I think USA Volleyball is a good neutral party to help facilitate that conversation. And I think we have a broad view on the sport, from this organization. So it's within the interest of all of us and USA Volleyball in particular to grow the sport and ensure that things are all going in the same direction. And then I think USA Volleyball can also stand behind its athletes, right? I think, again, from when they enter the sport until they exit it, I think it's the responsibility of USA Volleyball to center the athletes as the focus. So, as much as possible, where the athletes want to go, and what's best for kind of their well-being, I think is best for USA Volleyball. So, I think we can serve as an independent voice in a lot of ways. But yeah, we're not going to go to any league and say, you can't do that, because there's capitalism. It's America,
Yes. Yeah. They'll figure out the mess eventually. And hopefully some of my issue that I think is the egos in the room need to realize that the best of the sport, they both canalize each other. And
yeah, I think honestly, if you let all of us players just get in a room and figure it out, then it'd be all good. But it's not how it works. We don't have the money and the power. So.
But with what they do at Athletes Unlimited, which is the athletes do have a lot of power there. Switch to talking about that league a little bit. You work with them in your professional role, not your volunteer role with the USA Volleyball. Athletes Unlimited tried a new model this year, kind of by playing in two different host cities in Omaha and Madison. What did you learn about that different approach as opposed to being a city based previously, whether it was in the greater Phoenix area or a Dallas area? And what do you hope to kind of carry forward for 2026?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it was an interesting experiment for us because it was the first time we've been in two cities, and we picked Omaha and Madison, which are both incredible volleyball cities. So I liked it in the sense that it gave us a different look and let us try some new things. I mean, operationally, it's obviously easier to just stick in one place and set up for the long term and let the athletes stay there and all of that. But yeah, I think we learned some things about both cities. They were fairly evenly matched, I would say. So we're still really considering kind of how we're going to treat 2026. We could potentially go back to the one city layout, or kind of one region and play in different places within that space. But yeah, we have the same couple of venues, which were great, are options for us next year. And I really like the setup in both of those. So I would be surprised if we weren't back at least one of them. But yeah, still figuring out for sure the plan for this fall.
Well, certainly volleyball fan interest in both college and pro has never been higher in the US. It's the fastest growing sport at the youth participation level, but then the crown jewel, it seems like, of national volleyball is always a country's national team. Cassidy, what do you think more needs to be done more to continue elevating, promoting, making visible, making a big deal out of the national team? That seems to sit fairly squarely within USA Volleyball's purview.
For sure, yeah. I think obviously this quad is super exciting for that, not only because of the Olympics in LA, but because of World Championships, which we're hosting in 2027. And so those are two giant events that we haven't. We've hosted Olympics before, but we haven't hosted in a long time or ever in the case of World Championships. So, and there's TV interest that there's never been before. So I think there is a push to host more elite events in the US. I think that's good for international volleyball because they really want to reach the US market. So the partnership with the FIVB is super important in volleyball world. So I think everybody agrees that this market needs to continue to grow. I do think the pro leagues are going to help in that, as instead of sending people off to Turkey and Russia and Poland and everywhere else as soon as they graduate, we're able to keep some of them still in the US still to hopefully keep people's attention. Because I think that's been a huge challenge in the past, is just not having visibility of those athletes when they go overseas. I think getting other, getting, like I said, brands involved and brands and media, like those are the things that are gonna flip it. The challenge that volleyball has, honestly, is the lack of support on the male side. I really think we don't have the NBA or MLS or NHL to kind of prop up the sport and help us along. So it's really, we have to do it with women first in most cases. Which I think is possible, especially in this moment, but it's going to take kind of media interest and brands to come on board and want to help market us, beyond just volleyball. Like, we're really great in volleyball at talking to ourselves, and we need to broaden that a little bit to talking to everyone else.
Yeah, I was excited to see on Saturday night, just on social media, the Columbus Fury were playing a match, the Cavaliers were playing a match, and then gave a direct shout out, unprompted. Like, one of their players had a running spike block and said, "Hey, Columbus, you need any players too?" So it's like, hey,
nice
for free earned media there too. That, I mean, different cities in Cleveland to Columbus too, but it's on their radar at least to tag them in social media. So that's the growth.
Love that.
Last question, I'll get you out of here. I mean, you mentioned it a little bit there too. How excited are you for the 2028 Olympics too? I mean, right in your backyard, volleyball will be in Anaheim, right? And the buzz started. I mean, we had the Winter Olympics coming up in a couple of weeks too, but has the buzz really started for 2028 in your neck of the woods?
I think, obviously being a part of USA Volleyball, it's top of mind. I'm super excited about it. I haven't been alive for a U.S. Summer Olympics. So I'm super excited just that's happening, and to have it be in California, I driving distance, like I don't have to get a hotel room or anything. That's great. And yeah, to have grown up playing here and playing in Anaheim and going to the national team in Anaheim, it's pretty amazing that it's kind of coming to our home base. And I'm just really excited to see USA Volleyball play in front of US fans. Yeah. Like, as an athlete playing on the national team, you rarely get that, and even sometimes when we're playing on our home soil, it feels like there's more foreign fans than US fans. But I think for the Olympics, people are going to show up, and it's such a pivotal moment. And so, I know for me, like the moments that we got to play, in Hawaii, for example, one time we played there, and like the USA chant starts, and it's just, there's no other experience like that. And so I'm really excited for the teams to have that and to play at home and get that kind of boost of energy. It's going to be super special.
Absolutely. Well, and we look forward to following your journey with USA Volleyball and all the way up to the 2028 Olympics and beyond. I think this is a huge opportunity. People want to follow the national team. They want to cheer for the red, white, and blue. They just need, opportunities to watch both on TV or streaming and in person. And we're really excited to see what you and the rest of USA Volleyball is going to be able to do to push that forward over the next couple of years. Cassidy Lichtman is the new board chair of USA Volleyball. Her term starts on July 1. Until then, we've got a whole lot of professional volleyball to take our attention up to when the international stuff starts in the summer. Cassidy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. And just a shout out to the state of Nebraska. I feel like, it is proof of what volleyball can be. So it's just the rest of the country that's got to catch up.
Absolutely. Get us some national team matches. The Nebraska folks will pack those arenas.
I will work on that.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Cassidy.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right.
I have actually been to a couple of national team matches. Like Volleyball Nations League was in Lincoln and Omaha, I believe.
Yeah.
You've been, that if it was in Nebraska, and frankly, I'd love to get to a point where no matter where USA Volleyball played in the U.S., they were playing in front of a packed arena. So I think we're working our way towards that.
Stop putting matches in Shreveport or Arlington, Texas, maybe, and get some good hotbeds of volleyball. They'll work on that. So awesome. It was a fun conversation with Cassie, but we're going to move now. Speaking of all the pro volleyball happening, we're going to move to rotation 2. We're going to start with the Omaha Supernovas. The Supernovas are back to 3-3. They broke the week 2 blues that they've had over the last couple of years too, and they had a huge win at Indianapolis. They beat the Storm, got out to Indy, and were able to play their match. I think they got stuck or were planning to stay an extra day after the fact, but that was Indy's first loss of the year. Big homecoming for Sydney Hill, and really it was Indy won the first set and looked kind of in control, and then Omaha flipped the switch in set 2 and really kind of ran away with the last 3. Sets 2 and 4 were a little bit close, but they really seemed to find something. Because to me, the one difference between that and previous matches, Reagan Cooper got her first start of the season.
Well, it seems like offense has not been a huge issue for Omaha. They're one of the better offensive teams, at least in the first couple weeks of Major League Volleyball. On Saturday night in this huge win at Indy, they hit 362 as a team. Brooke Nuneviller had 18 kills and hit 436. And you mentioned Reagan Cooper, who has played for the Supernovas for the last couple of years, but had not started a match this season, while Sarah Parsons has been the other outside hitter for Omaha. In her first start of the year, Reagan Cooper also had 17 kills and hit over 400. She hit 429. So when your outsides are combining for 35 kills and both hit over 400, not a bad night at the office.
You're going to win most matches there too. Yeah, it was really dominant. And not that Parsons was playing bad. But Cooper stepped in, kind of showed the level that she's capable of too, which is just an embarrassment of riches at outside hitter for the Supernovas as well too. Emily Londa was at opposite. I thought she had a fairly solid match. I think she was double-digit kills as well too. So like you mentioned, offense hasn't been an issue. Nuneviller is the top, has the most kills in the league. She's not kills per set, but just total volume of kills and most points. Almost also played a lot of sets as well too. A lot of matches compared to some other. I think Indy was 3-0. That was just their 4th match, whereas Omaha's that was their 6th one. So yeah.
But Omaha, even if you look at it per set, Omaha's second in Major League Volleyball in hitting percentage.
Yeah.
They're second in kills per set. So you're like, okay, why is this team, why were they 2-3 going into Saturday night? And it seems like defense has been an area where they've struggled a little bit. You've seen a lot of Supernovas matches. Am I accurate in that assessment?
Yeah, to me, it boils down. They don't have, they have a lot of options at middle blocker, but none of them have really risen up to grab a stranglehold. They've kind of rotated through all 5 of them. To me, that's where the defense starts a little bit too, is that middle blocker being able to funnel attacks to where you are set up to defend them. I mean, Morgan Hentz has been, I think, fairly great. I mean, there's several times every match where I'm like, wow, how did she make that dig? She makes this impressive digs. Her passing hasn't been the sharpest, and I think serve receive overall has been a mixed bag for
Omaha is getting out passed, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I remember looking at it the other day on volley metrics, and Omaha is getting out passed. I want to say like 56 to 52% in good pass percentage. And I think it's pretty well acknowledged that Morgan Hentz is an incredible defensive libero. Serve receive, there are some other liberos in the league that are a little bit stronger than her. But again, just like we talked about with Nebraska and some passing struggles in the college season, if your hitting percentage is still really high, like how big of a problem is your passing? It's been slowing down other teams' offenses. That seems like it's been where Omaha has lost their matches.
Yeah, like I said, I think Sarah Parsons is one of the leader in blocking, but the middle blockers just haven't given a lot. And I think that's also you talk about, I mean, the left side hitters are both hitting over 400, but the team is only hitting 362. The middle blockers haven't been as terminal as you would want to. I mean, Kiara Reinhardt, I thought, played her best match of the season. She's a rookie coming out of Creighton. She showed some really good flashes, but again, it's kind of a rotating door at middle blocker too. Elise Gotzinger, Toyoso Odobanjo has been played. Janice Leao has got some time as well. She started a couple matches. Layla Blackwell's kind of on the short end. She's only played in 2 sets this season, but they don't have any strong answers. I think this is where you see maybe the salary cap playing in. Omaha spent a lot of money on outside hitter, setter, libero, and you got to go short in one area. They decided to go short in middle blocker, and you don't have, I mean, they're good players. They're playing professionally. They're still worthy professionals, but you don't have the elite difference makers. Like I think Lydia Martin had double-digit blocks for Indy in a match last week, and Omaha does not have anybody at that level on their roster.
Well, and then you look over at the right as well, and it doesn't look like they've been getting a ton of offense out of the opposite position. Merritt Beeson was a really high-level addition, or at least a much ballyhooed addition in the offseason. She's only hitting 121 this season, and Emily Londa, the former Ohio State star, has actually stepped in and started the last 2 matches, including the win at Indy on Saturday. And you look kind of across the league, and in Love too, usually it's your opposite hitter position that is your highest score. And Omaha's offense, they're still looking for offense on the right side.
Yeah. To go back to a previous point too, I've got VolleyMetrics out. I didn't realize that the MLV was on VolleyMetrics, but hey,
yeah, they both are. It's great.
Omaha's opponents have a 58.7 good pass percentage, while the Supernovas are passing just 51.8. So almost a 7-point.
A little bit bigger than even I thought.
Yeah, it's 7-point difference, and even just on pure numbers, it's a 223 to a 216 at a 3 scale.
Are they missing a lot of serves? It seemed like when I looked at that earlier in the week, they were giving away a lot of points, and they're playing a lot of tight sets, right? Like Omaha's dropped a couple 5-setters. They got reverse swept at home. And in some of these matches, the margins are so close, right? If you're missing serves, then you're giving away points and maybe even giving away sets.
Yeah, there was one on last week where they dropped to Columbus Fury, where they had a number of different service errors too, and it's also just when they happen to. If they may be behind, they fight back and tie the set and then miss a serve. So I think that I've been surprised by the number of serves that aren't even that close to being in. So this is the thing too, where in the professional game, liberos don't serve, so you're forcing both of your middle blockers, a lot of which, I mean, come from the college game and probably had to do didn't have to do a lot of serving. Omaha's middle blockers are quite young and professionally, so they are still working on that skill.
Lincoln, what do you see Reagan Cooper adding to the lineup? I know maybe our sample size is pretty small, but when you come out and 17 kills and hit over 400 against the previously unbeaten team on Saturday night, speaks pretty highly of her, I would say.
Yeah, I don't think that Reagan Cooper's offensive credentials are being questioned at all. I actually asked after she didn't start for the first 4 or 5 matches. She played one token rally as after the first 4 matches. She had to play one token rally in the 5th match. But I asked Lucas Slabe about that, and he said that she wasn't playing based on her passing and defense and kind of those other things other than her offense. Her offense is without question. I mean, she was number 2 outside hitter or number 2 player in Athletes Unlimited as far as point scoring, and she's won awards for the national team. So I don't think it's her offense that is in question, but again, it's the other things of out of system setting, passing, defense, digging balls. So I think that, I mean, I still think that the positives outweigh, and I think that I had some people suggest to me too, maybe you put Sarah Parsons at opposite of, and before Emily Londot really kind of stepped up her game, because she has played there internationally, and that would be quite the lethal trio of pin hitters between Nunaville, Cooper, and Parsons to play all at the same time.
So we're 1 month into the MLV season. We've got a 6-match sample size now, the Supernovas. You are the one that follows Omaha, closer of the two of us on this podcast. What's sort of your high-level overview? What if Omaha is going to make a run deep in the MLV playoffs? What are the things they got to shore up, or what's going to be the big difference between a successful and not successful season for Omaha?
I think, again, it's not surprising based on the conversation we've already had. It's finding the middle blocker pairing that will be able to terminate balls. Not just, I mean, I think that they do okay defensively, but it's their kill percentage is lower than it should be, which again, partially their fault, but also developing that connection with Sydney Hilly as well too at setter. And I think serve receive is another one where they have a lot of room for improvement to step up to. But I think that, I mean, they are in 4th place after 3 weeks of the season too. So it's a long season, a lot of chemistry that can be developed. So I don't think that it's time to panic if you are, if you're the Supernovas and you had aspirations of being in the playoffs and contending for a title. I think that you'll see ebbs and flows, and right now they're, I don't know if they're ebbing or they're flowing, but
and the league is all bunched together, and nobody's undefeated, nobody's winless. It's an 8-team league, and so it's going to separate, over the next couple months. There's plenty of time for Omaha to move into the top half of the league.
Yeah, and you play each team 4 times too, and so it's a long season. Teams will evolve and change as injuries happen. Players unlock what they can do within the system. So I don't think the Supernovas need to panic at all too, but it'll be kind of fun to see how they evolve and kind of learn about who they have on the roster.
Hey, let's move into rotation 3, Nebraska's other professional franchise, Love Nebraska. Love Nebraska is 2-2. As we mentioned in our interview with Cassidy, was supposed to play a match on Sunday at Atlanta that has been postponed because of the severe winter weather that's hitting much of the eastern U.S. It's been a home-road kind of coin flip for Love Nebraska. They've won both of their home matches. They've lost both of their road matches, sitting at 2-2. While Omaha, the Supernovas aren't having much problems offensively, it's been Love Nebraska that seems like it's having a hard time putting balls away right now. They're getting out hit by their opponents 275 to 238 on the season. It's the biggest disparity in League One right now. Only Houston has let opponents hit a higher percentage. So it seems like Love Nebraska, even with Lexi Rodriguez as the starting libero, is still trying to find ways to slow down opposing attacks.
Yeah. I think that again, the evolution of what the team looks like. I mean, you'd hope a team with Lexi, and then Jordan Larson has a reputation of being one of the better passing outside hitters as well in her career. And granted that she is one of the elder statesmen of the league, so it's you wonder where she can take her game too. But I mean, offense hasn't been a problem. You mentioned earlier too, you want opposites to be kind of the terminal point scorer on your team. Kimberly Drebniak has been that for Omaha too. She's 4th in the entire league, averaging 3.5 kills per set. So I think that, again, these teams have been they practiced for like a month or so together too. So there's not a lot of there's a lot of turnover, so there's not a lot of chemistry that they're still figuring out how they can play together as well.
Well, Drebniak's putting away balls on the right. I think it's the left side where Love Nebraska is trying to find out where they're going to score. Because, you know, Jordan Larson, this is her final professional season. She's already said that she is not the point scorer that she once was. And I believe Jaylee Winters is the other starting outside for Love Nebraska.
Well, they and also they've kind of Anna Bulis or Bausch is the word you said. Bausch. She's played a little bit as well too. So I think that they're still trying to figure out what they have of that. But I mean, there was one match where Jordan Larson looked like a world beater too. But this is what happens as you get up. It's not your skill level may not diminish a lot too, but the ability to play at that high level is not there match to match too. So. You wonder about that, but you know who is, I think I've been really impressed with over the few matches that I've seen play is Carol Carolina de Silva, who is a Brazilian middle blocker, joined the team too. She is worth the price of admission.
Still
She's
a world-class player.
So fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So Carol's in the middle. You know, we talked in our last show, in the season preview show. Omaha did not make a move to change. Love Nebraska, has not made a move to change its setters. Still has the same setters as last year with Laura Jikma and Gabby Blossom. Lincoln, what have you thought of the setting that Love Nebraska has?
The first match I watched, their opening match of the season against Austin, I thought she did really well. Distribution was good. She's putting her pin hitters in a position to succeed and really getting running a good tempo as well too. I haven't been able to watch every single match too, but I don't know. I saw a lot better ball distribution compared to last year too. Stats may indicate otherwise because Nebraska is still hitting. Was it 238? So it's part of that, I think, is but I haven't. It hasn't been the red flag that it was at times last year to me. And I mean, again, it's still early, but but I thought, especially the first match where I was really able to watch and see all the points, that she did well.
All right. Well, you're going to be able to, if you are in Nebraska, you're going to have a chance this week to see Love Nebraska play at their home match. They're going to host Madison, who's one of the stronger teams in the league, at least in the first couple of weeks. That's going to be on Friday, January 30th, I believe, at Baxter Arena. Do I have that right?
Yes.
Not Liberty First Credit Union Arena like they played in last year, but on the UNO campus, Baxter Arena, Friday night. Love Nebraska against Madison.
It'll be a double dip again tonight too, that night, because also on Friday night the San Diego Mojo are playing at the Supernovas at CHI Health Center too. So if you want volleyball on Friday night, you will have multiple options to watch professional volleyball in the city of Omaha.
I think we get an old friend alert with Madison, and I don't have the roster in front of me. I should have brought that up.
Friend alert.
With former Nebraska middle blocker Callie Schwarzenbach. Doesn't she play for Madison?
Yes, and recently graduated Rebecca Alec is also on Madison as well too. So Callie Schwarzenbach, I think
she's one of the better middles in League One right now.
Yeah, I've been really impressed. I know she got Player of the Week. I haven't been able to watch a lot of Madison play, but she has become an offensive threat. I mean, she was always Callie Schwarzenbach, really good on her defense game outpaced her offense, but I think she's played professionally in Puerto Rico and Brazil, and really that side of her game has developed, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, and that's great for her. Callie was always a really nice person to talk to when she was at Nebraska. The offensive part of her game still had a little ways to develop, but hey, we grow, we change. She's done a great job, and it's awesome to see Callie Schwarzenbach blossoming as a professional.
Yes. All right, let's move to rotation number 4. This is our Nebraska coaching news. So far, we've only got one new contract signed by Nebraska's assistant coaches. Jalen Reyes put ink to paper last week.
He probably docu-signed it.
Yeah, fine, fair enough. No one's anymore. But he is now the associate head coach. He's only the third ever player or person to hold that title at Nebraska. You kind of have the infamous John Cook was the associate head coach the one year he came back under Terry Pettit before taking over the following year. And then Tyler Hildebrand was also the associate head coach when he came back for his second stint. That only lasted 1 year before he left to go be the head coach at Long Beach State. But Jalen Reyes, I mean, he's earned it. He's been at Nebraska for 8 years now. Which is the second longest tenure of any assistant coach. Kathy Noth from 1988 to 1998 for 11 years. She worked under Terry Pettit. So it's very, very rewarding. Good to see Jalen sticking around. And were you surprised that he did this? I mean, I know there's always rumors of him leaving somewhere.
Well, what's interesting is we'll see if Jalen breaks the streak of the first two people who have the associate head coach title. Only lasted a year with it, with Cook taking over in 2000 and then Tyler Hildebrand bouncing after having it for 1 year. This is what you do to retain someone who may have other employment options, right? It's a title bump, it's a pay bump. And I don't know this for sure, right? But you could take a look around and maybe put 2 and 2 together. There were some high profile openings that came open a little bit later in the coaching cycle, including one at Jalen's alma mater, BYU, where Heather Olmstead stepped down and another coach ended up getting hired. They hired Utah State's coach. But if Jalen hadn't got a phone call, at least an exploratory phone call from his alma mater to see what his interest might be in leading that program, I would be very, very surprised. And so things like this are what you do when you have a really valuable employee that you want to retain and keep around. So, credit to Danny and whoever else was involved in putting this together, because, Jalen's more than proved his worth to that program. And, between Jalen and Danny now, they continue to have probably the best recruiting coaching staff in the country. But like you mentioned, what this staff fully looks like going into the fall of 2026, I don't think we know for sure. We should probably know by the end of January, so in another week or so, because there's some other contracts that still need to get worked out.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, sometimes associate head coach, it means something different program to program. Nebraska, it's kind of the honorary, but like Creighton and Kirsten Berthal Booth last year, both Angie Oxley Barons and Brian Rosen were associate head coach. So you can have 2 associate head coaches. But
these titles don't mean anything in a legal sense, right? You give them to someone because it makes them feel good, and it's they can put it on their resume so that when they do, move on to a head coaching job, it's another title they've held.
Well, it also allows for a pay bump as well too. That comes with a new title. You can get that too. So Jalen actually, I think he was making $170,000 in 2025. With the new contract, he signed a 3-year, $630,000 for the life of the contract. It's a 3 years. That's the other interesting part to me too. Is most assistants work on a year-to-year basis too, but Jalen signed a 3-year deal, starting out at $200,000, and he'll get like bonuses for 10% if they make the NCAA tournament. So just build that in there as well too. So, but there is a buyout if he leaves to go to any other assistant job. If he goes to a head coaching job, no buyout throughout the life of the contract.
Well, he's certainly had options, and so he's also in a pretty good seat to be pretty choosy about what he wants. So, for example, UCLA came open, and we're going to talk about that here in rotation 5. But locking him up in this way probably keeps any other suitors at bay, at least for this offseason, I would guess.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, it was an interesting offseason as far as head coaching moves. So I think that, there's always rumors of when's Jalen get a head coaching job. I think he likes the role he's in too. He's kind of had a little bit of responsibility shift of being the defensive coordinator to working a lot more, being the point person, I should say, with the outside hitters. And as far as assistant coaches go, he has a lot more visibility within the Nebraska world than a lot of assistant coaches do elsewhere. Jalen and all of the assistant coaches were on a weekly podcast, and then Jalen started his own radio show as well too. So he has a lot of visibility and things that you would think that would eventually lead to a head coaching job too. But he's shown that he enjoys working with John Cook, and also the last year with Danny Busboom Kelly. Well,
there are a number of, I would say, lead assistants across college volleyball that could have a head coaching job tomorrow if they wanted one. There's Brittany Dildine at Wisconsin, I think, leave if she wanted to and get a head coaching job tomorrow. Jalen's certainly in that category as well. But there's something to be said for having the responsibilities you have as an assistant. Those are different than the ones you have as a head coach. And Jalen's making more money than a lot of probably most Division I head coaches. So he can kind of have his cake and eat it too. And, what this staff ends up looking like in the fall of 2026, I think we'll know pretty soon.
Yeah, we have to know soon, I assume, because all the other assistant coaches, their contracts expire January 31st too. So we'll find out. usually you hear kind of staff changes after the AVCA convention, because that's where a lot of interviews happen. So I would be surprised if Kelly Hunter, Natter, and
Brendan Hagar.
Brendan Hagar aren't back next year, but we'll find out soon. We can predict all we want, but if we don't,
we'll find out. Another program that is going through a coaching change as we move into rotation 5 is our friends at UCLA. The Bruins were the only team in the Big Ten to take a set off Nebraska in the 2025 season. Alfie Reft, this is not the time of year that most college coaches leave their positions, but Alfie Reft is leaving UCLA, and we found out just a couple days later it was because he was going to be named the new head coach of League One's newest expansion franchise, Love San Francisco, which starts play in 2027. I sniffed around this a little bit. Apparently, this had been in the works for a few weeks. There were some word going through the college landscape that Alfie Reft might be leaving UCLA. And, I always think, I've said this on social media a number of times, I don't understand how UCLA is ever poor in any sport, but it's not a great look for the Bruins to lose their head coach to a burgeoning professional league where you have to assume the salaries are lower. I don't know if this is an indication that there's some things going on in Westwood, or just, Alfie Reft came from the international program, the Team USA program, and maybe after a couple years in college, he decided that college volleyball was not the place that he wanted to spend the rest of his career.
Yeah, just some numbers as well, too. I mean, Reft was getting paid $200,000 at UCLA. So, again, you wonder how much he's getting paid from League One. Could be higher. Who knows? We don't know those financials, but his $200,000 salary was the third lowest of schools that we know about too. So of the 15 publicly available schools, that doesn't include USC, Northwestern, and Penn State doesn't disclose individual salaries.
Yeah.
Only
I would
ahead
guess
of
that Penn State pays their coach more.
I would think so.
I would guess that Northwestern pays theirs less. And I have no idea what to guess USC. I
would think USC would be higher too, especially, you don't want that program to be in the bottom 3 or 4 of the entire Big Ten. So he's only ahead of Leslie Gabriel at Washington, Adam Hughes at Maryland as well too. So you don't know the financials of, but
well, we do know the financials, not necessarily about the UCLA program. We know the finances of the UCLA athletic department, and those things are not looking great. From 2019 to 2024, the UCLA athletic department went over $200 million in debt. They ran a shortfall. The university actually bailed them out to the tune of $30 million last year. So the academic side of UCLA turned over $30 million to the athletic department. That's according to reporting done by Pasadena Now, which is a news source out there in Southern California, which makes me think maybe UCLA women's volleyball is not really that great of a job.
Yeah, which is surprising to see, because they're one of I think there's 8 teams that have now won a national championship. Is it that low?
I think it's got to be more than 8, but
a dozen. We'll go a dozen. But there's a very small group of teams that have won national championships in women's indoor volleyball, and UCLA was one of them. And definitely, one of the few that even have won multiple volleyball championships. It was a 2011. Was that the last year they won?
11 or was it 2? It might have been 2000, and it was either 10 or 11 when UCLA last won the national championship. And also, they were good that last year, right? They took a set off Nebraska. They clearly have some talent, but now they have to go find a new head coach. So the fun part of this, right, is for people like us and college volleyball fans, you get to speculate on who UCLA is going to hire. And at least as of right now, which is 5:00 Central Time on Sunday, January 25th, UCLA has not made a hire to replace Alfie Reft, although that's not going to stop us from at least kicking around a couple names.
Wild speculation. You did a little more sniffing on this than I did too. Who are some names that you maybe heard, or just names that make sense?
And please understand, what I'm about to say is not sourced reporting of any kind. I'm just kind of looking around as to what might make sense. It's been a little bit of a rough go for Tyler Hildebrand, another old friend who is currently at St. Mary's. They had a lot of players leave after this season, but I know Tyler is used to I believe he was at least had some interest in the USC job one of the last times it was open. He's coached at Long Beach. So this is a local coach who's got Team USA and Olympic experience. Maybe he is somebody that you look at for UCLA. UCLA men's assistant coach Lindsey Brown. A lot of times, you see at schools like BYU that has men's and women's program both. Long Beach, same thing. That they might trade some assistants a little bit. So if they wanted to keep it in the family, Lindsey Brown might be someone that they look at, an assistant on the men's team. And then, this was actually so obvious a possibility to me that I hesitated even calling it a sleeper. But we want to throw out one more old friend alert: Natalie Reagan, former Nebraska graduate assistant, who I got to know a little bit when I was covering the program, has had a pretty successful run in the start of her head coaching career. 41-20 in her first 2 years as the head coach at Long Beach State. They went 22-9 last year. She was already an assistant at Loyola Marymount for 4 years, so she knows the LA area. She and her family live in El Segundo, so they're right there. You don't have to get someone to move across the country to take this job. You're probably just giving them a raise and then giving them their first chance at a job in the best volleyball conference in the country. So that's another name that I might see. What's it? Martin Jarmond is still the UCLA athletic director, although I thought he was going to get fired last fall for the whole football deal. That might be a phone call that he makes too, is to Natalie Reagan.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that too. Also, I haven't seen any player movement as well too. I mean, the portal does open up after your head coach leaves, so they have 30 days from whenever the official announcement was to enter the portal. I haven't seen any movement on the end of the players as well for that too. So we'll keep an eye on that, as well as the UCLA head coaching search. All right, let's move to rotation 6. This is maybe kind of the grab bag. We did debate talking about Nebraska basketball because that's the biggest buzz around this part of the state as well. But we're going to focus.
Lincoln and I are both season ticket holders.
Stick in our lane. We're going to talk about beach volleyball, and I got some other volleyball notes as well too. So beach volleyball, again, it operates differently than indoor volleyball. Nebraska posted its roster last weekend. I got some questions. Like Skylar Pierce is listed as a junior because she's played 3 seasons of that, even though she redshirted indoor. That is completely separate from the beach volleyball. They have the 3 new incomers are all listed, and then they're also freshmen, as well as the 3 people who Ryan Hunter sat out last year. She kind of recovered from her knee injury. And then Virginia Adriano and Kenna Kogel also came after the spring semester. So they're all playing their first season of beach volleyball. So they've started practice this week in the warm indoor facilities that they have here. Did not have to go to the sub-zero weather outside. Good for them.
Well, to me, the biggest news about Nebraska beach volleyball this spring is that it's happening, because I know when Danny Busboom Kelly was hired, she was asked about the future of the beach program. Us. Or you asked her. All right.
We asked her. It was on the podcast.
I forget how many people talked to Danny, but yeah, it was something that certainly didn't sound like it was 100% airtight that it was going to continue. And maybe it doesn't in the future, but at least for this year, Nebraska is going to be playing a beach schedule, although they're not going to California or Hawaii, which is normally what they do. And I feel like one of the bigger recruiting draws that Nebraska uses beach volleyball for. They are going to travel, of course, because who wants to play a beach season entirely in the Midwest when it's single-digit temperatures outside? But just like last year, right, Lincoln, they're not playing a lot of big-name schools, right? You're not getting a Nebraska, Texas, or Nebraska, Florida State beach showdown. It's a lot of Division II schools. It's a lot of NAIA schools.
Yeah, they are playing one tournament when they go to Arizona. That's all Division I schools. They'll play Stephen F. Austin, Arizona State, Southern Miss, and Arizona are all part of the Sun Devil Classic. But other than that, like I said, it's kind of other teams. They're going to Florida as well to play. But they are, just because they're playing lower levels doesn't mean they're playing a lot of pushovers. They're playing the number 1 NAIA school in Ottawa University, Arizona. And then number 5, Arizona Christian, when they go to that state, which is kind of be nice for the couple of native Arizonians on the Husker roster, and Toria Sigler and Kenna Kogel. It will kind of, maybe they'll get a big fan club. They can get the Arizona Storm Club, can all go out and watch them play. And I should say, I also mentioned Arizona State is ranked number 12 in Division I as well. So they'll do that. My advice for Nebraska volleyball fans too is don't get too caught up in the results. I know Nebraska had a big winning streak because they're playing inferior opponents. Sometimes, no matter how much other schools train at the outdoor beach game, superior athleticism will win the day too. So don't get worried about what Nebraska is doing. They're doing this for training purposes. They're doing this for recruiting purposes to get to say, hey, you got to go on fun trips, and also team camaraderie of just getting to see matchups, to get the team together away and out of their comfort zone. So, yeah.
We also have a couple of players of local interest who making their professional debuts recently, just not in the major U.S. Pro League. So Ali Czech, who unfortunately the last time we saw her, she got injured in Nebraska's season finale, that Elite Eight match against Texas A&M. She is playing in Puerto Rico right now, and man, my Spanish is rusty. She's playing for Criollas de Cagas. Is that right? In Puerto Rico, had a really solid debut, 12 kills in her professional debut. So Ali Czech was drafted by the Supernovas, cut there, and is now playing in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and a couple other players who they played for the Supernovas last season, never was on the roster at all this year. Lindsey Krause, former Cornhusker, and Kendra Waite, former Creighton Blue Jay. They're now playing with Pinkin de Corozal. I think the highlight for that to me, Lindsey Krause put up 31 kills in a 5-set match on Saturday night. So it's good to see her kind of landed on her feet. Puerto Rico is part of the United States. It's a territory, but usually for international sporting events, it's considered they have their own separate governing bodies for a lot of.
They have their own team in the World Baseball Classic. So
yeah, they competed separately in the Olympics. So even though they are part of the U.S. territory for international athletics, they're considered a different country.
Absolutely. So, hey, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for joining us for a late January edition of Volleyball State. We'd once again remind you to subscribe and review. We'd love to have you become a Volleyball State Patreon member. When you pay $5 a month at patreon.com/I80club, you get things like early access to shows like this, live participation when we do live shows. You get access to bonus shows. You get access to our Volleyball State newsletter. We take your questions and interact in the I80 Club Discord, which has become my new favorite community on the internet. A community full of passionate people who ask great questions about volleyball. I think we took some of those questions for some of our segments today, but it's just $5 a month to become a Patreon subscriber to support what we're doing all year long to talk about volleyball in the Cornhusker State. You go to patreon.com/I80club. That's patreon.com/I80club. Just $5 a month.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great way to help support the work that we do too. Also, if you want to support the work that we do too, feel free to email us at volleyballstate@gmail.com too. We don't have our regular show too, so we have a lot more flexibility. We had a chance to talk with Cassidy.
Yeah, we're not doing 4 shows a month during the college off season.
Yeah. So one, if you have any ideas of guests that you want to see, we have a couple ideas of people that we're working on for the month of February too. Or if you want to sponsor Volleyball State as well too, we put out content all year long because volleyball never ends as well too. So hit us up at volleyballstate@gmail.com for ideas. If you want to sponsor us, we're not full mask guys, but hey, sometimes you never know. We're Volleyball State guys. So thanks again to the I80 Club, Jack Mitchell, Josh Peterson. Also be sure to check out I80 Live. The basketball hours have been blowing up. They're coming for us. They want to bring our volleyball numbers too. So we'll fight back. Saturday morning coffee show. And one of my new favorite podcast I listen to is Unemployed with Mike Schaefer, even though he has a full-time job too.
Mike was unemployed when he had that show for about 6 days.
Yeah.
One of the hilarious ironies of life, but we're really excited for Mike with his new role at 1620. And he still does a great show 5 days a week, Unemployed with Mike Schaefer. All of the shows within the I80 Club universe are gold. You can check them out by becoming a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/I80club. Lincoln, anything else?
Nope. Follow us. Go to our link tree, volleyballstate.com. Follow us on social media. I'll still be putting out stories about professional volleyball as well as that season goes. And we'll get you news whenever it happens for the Nebraska volleyball world as well, too. So thanks for listening to our show. And thank you for living in the Volleyball State.